Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Mother Africa Be Calling. I am your speaker, Basuel Yahuda. Today's topic is America is under judgment. America is under judgment. Let's get right into it. I'm not even going to take up a lot of time. You know, a lot of people want to ignore this truth. America is under judgment. A lot of people, America has had its benefits for people, even the children of Israel. As much as we have gone through in the United States, from slavery through Jim Crow, through the lynchings, through everything, just chattel enslavement is just terrible. All the things we've been through and we still go through. We fill up the prison houses unjustly quite often. Not saying that all of us in prison for things that we didn't do. No, I'm not saying that. I'm simply saying that it's a system. The system is set up where it is most likely going to fill the prisons with the children of Israel, AKA African Americans. Okay, so this whole system goes against us. Anyway, nevertheless, America is under judgment, and I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna start with one reason why America is under judgment. First of all, what it has done to Yahweh's people, the children of Israel. America and the European nations, it's time for their judgment. They are under judgment. They took us into bondage, chattel slavery, and they got rich off of it, and so is the Arab nations. Nevertheless, Abba Yahweh, we know that Abba Yahweh allowed this. He opened the door for this. Why? Because our ancestors were disobedient. Our ancestors basically ignored Abba Yahweh and did whatever they wanted to do after Abba Yahweh had promised them that if they keep and obey his commandments, he would make them what? A nation of priests. And they would be his treasured possession. And they agreed, our ancestors agreed during the time of Moses that they would do this. They would obey all his laws. But they didn't. Abba Yahweh sent prophets, he like Moses, a prophet, and he laid it down and he foretold what would happen if we obey and what would happen if we don't obey. It even speaks of what would happen to the children of our ancestors, and we're the children of our ancestors, and those who came before us who actually went through the chattel slavery when we were in bondage as if we were the beast of the field, our ancestors. So Abba Yahweh, he allowed this nation and this government and the other nations throughout the Western world, which we call the Western world, to take us into physical bondage, slavery, right? And so he allowed that for the chastisement of us. He basically chastened those he loved. He spanked Israel. He spanked us. Spanked us good too now. Spanked us good. Nevertheless, that did not make those nations righteous. As a matter of fact, they went too far. And as a matter of fact, Abba Yahweh, he always does this. When a nation comes in and he let them put the sword to us and spank us, he turns around and he spanks that nation, AKA ancient Babylon. I'll just use that for an example. He raised up ancient Babylon. He allowed ancient Babylon to have power and to take the children of Israel into captivity. The Medes came in and spanked them. Abba Yahweh allowed that. This is what Abba Yahweh does. He will allow the wicked, he will use the wicked to beat his children, his chosen. He does that. He has the right to do it. He knows what he's doing. He allows them to be his belt, his whipping stick, right? To whip us back into order. Why? Because he loves us. Because he's going to keep a remnant of Israel. He is not going to let us all go into the lake of fire, right? He says the remnant will be saved. He promised Abraham. He made a promise to Abraham about his seed will be plenty as the seashore. He promised Abraham that his seed would inherit the land, right? The land of Canaan, the land that he gave to Abraham. So the time is going to come. When Abba Yahweh says something's going to happen, it's going to happen. But let's get back to America's under judgment. America is under so much judgment. One, because of what she did to the children of Israel. And I'm just going to speak for America right now, because I know a lot of the other nations, European nations, are under the judgment that's coming forth. This is already shown, even with this C-19 situation. So many people have died. That's judgment. Now, let me say this. America has completely defied Abba Yahweh in his law. This law that is so important. See, people think these things aren't important, but this law that the U.S. has put in place, as far as talking about LGBTQ and their rights to marry man with man and woman with woman, that is so important in the laws of Abba Yahweh. Why? Because it's about life. It's about existence. Abba Yahweh is the creator. And so his creation is gone haywire on him, right? So if this is about life, without life, there's nothing. Abba Yahweh gave us life. But if you remove life, there's nothing left, right? So the laws of Abba Yahweh is man is to be with woman, right? He made that so we could reproduce for him, right? Man was made for the pleasure of Abba Yahweh, right? So, and if we don't reproduce, then he has nothing left for his creation, right? So he's not going to allow it to happen, right? So if man and man cannot reproduce and woman cannot reproduce, then that's death. That means Abba Yahweh's creation would die off. It is simple as that. So here's a government, I'm talking about the U.S., a government who, not just as individuals who want this lifestyle, like those who are committed to LGBTQ and those who live like this. It's not just them. They're individuals. You're going to always have that in every society. You're going to have people who engage in homosexuality, sexual immorality, period, fornication. So that those, all these different things. But fornication is having sex outside of marriage, which is sin. It's sin. But here's the difference. Having homosexual relations is you cannot reproduce. And if you can't reproduce, then that means death to the planet, right? Think about it. The U.S. has made laws define Abba Yahweh, saying a man can marry a man, a woman marry a woman. That's a law by the government, not individuals. A government saying this. Not only that, it's going into other nations and into the continent of Africa and telling these people they are wrong for not allowing homosexuality and gay marriage, men with men, women with women. This is what the U.S. is doing. And so this is one of the reasons why I say Mother Africa be calling, right? For us to go home. It's time for us to look towards leaving this place of captivity. I'm talking about the children of Israel. We are here for punishment. We came here, our ancestors came here against their own will. We are a kidnapped people, right? And why? Because of the disobedience of our ancestors and us even up until now. But Abba Yahweh, he has a time for punishment, and he has a time for bringing us out of punishment, right? What he does is what a parent does. He spanks, and he spanked us good, but he also restores and hugs and kisses, okay? So it's time for us to leave, right? You say everybody can't leave. Come on now. You saying leave, like how we just going to leave? And, what we're gonna do? Just jump on a boat and go, and the Messiah, he said that he's going to gather us, especially Yahuda. It says he's going to gather us from the four corners of the earth, right? And he's going to gather us, and we're going to go into the promised land. True. But nevertheless, he still can gather us from the four corners of the earth as we are migrating back into the motherland, right? Because there's nothing wrong with seeing a storm coming and going to safety. It makes all the sense, right? Because we know that the storm is coming. We can see the judgment is upon the European nations and the U.S. Look at it. The United States, look, the security is being breached. Balloons from other nations, spy balloons, have been able to get into the country, right? You see all kinds of train derailments with chemical spills, poison in the water, poison in the air, okay? There are mudslides going on in different states. The ground just opening up, just swallowing up land and houses. You have annually, fires burning up California and the mudslides there. And you have, the land is being contaminated. You can't farm on it. The water is being polluted, like I said. And, it's just mayhem. You have tornadoes coming repeatedly. I mean, annually, and sometimes twice and three times annually through the Gulf Coast, all through the Midwest, ripping the places to pieces, right? And that causes famine. Think about all this stuff. Famine is here. Think about it. All the food and different things that need to be done. Grow crops to feed the people. It can't be done when tornadoes are ripping up all the farmland and the equipment, and also the water's being contaminated and poisoned. You name it. It's just mayhem, right? And so that is all judgment. And it's judgment. Why? Because these things are not like coming every now and then. They are now coming rapidly. I mean, they're coming. It's just all happening. And not only that, the United States is also financially taking a hit. We know that the U.S. dollar has been the dominant currency for trade for all countries. All countries have been using the U.S. dollar to trade goods and services, oil, and different things like that. It is the dominant currency. It was basically the equalizer, the currency that everybody used. It was strong, respected. So you have countries now who are now adopting other means of trades. They're dropping the dollar, right? So the value of the dollar is going out the door. So the United States is in trillions of dollars in debt. Banks are failing, and now the currency is being devalued, okay? So that it's a short time that is going to cause famine, okay? So now how can we even get food in here? How can we do it when no one is going to even respect our dollar, right? So who's going to continue to loan money to the U.S. government when it can't even pay it back? This currency is being trashed. So just think, it's a short time before you can see it coming. Pensions, okay, you got people who are living on pensions, Social Security, all these different things. These things are now at risk. Okay? And so if you don't have the value in the dollar and you can't borrow money from other nations, and then you can't trade because your dollar is very weak, trouble. Okay? So we know that that's coming. That's all judgment, right? And so when you, as a country, think that you could defy Yahweh and tell him that he's wrong, his creation says that be fruitful and multiply, and he made woman for man, and he told them be fruitful and multiply, and then you say no, that's wrong, as a government, not individuals, and then you go around to other nations and wag your finger at them and tell them they wrong. So you basically putting your middle finger, I'm talking about the U.S. and the European nations that are following with these laws they're putting in place for LGBTQ and all this homosexual marriage and all these different things. They're basically putting their middle finger up at Abba Yahweh, and then they want to go into Africa and try to force these things on these people and tell them they're wrong, And so Abba Yahweh, he got you, right? Because these laws are anti-life, right? Because think about it. Let's use nature, because people may not want to go good. Some people say, well, what about the atheists? Everybody does not believe in the Bible. You believe in the Bible, but you using something that everyone, have their own beliefs, and you that's what you believe in, So let's just go by, let's take the Bible out of it. Let's just go by human nature, right? Think about it. Just nature tell you. We like to eat meat, right? The majority of the world eats some sort of meat. Let's say if all the animals, right? All the animals decided that they were going to be male with male, female with male. Can they reproduce? Will they be able to reproduce? Would you be able to have that steak you want? Think about it. Let me read this right here. Genesis. This is Genesis 6:18 through 19. This is Abba Yah, Father Yah, our Creator. He was talking to Noah. He says, "But I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall come into the ark, you, your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives with you. And of every living thing of all flesh, you shall bring 2 of every sort into the ark to keep them alive with you. They should be male and female." There you go. Abba Yahweh, and we know that Noah and his sons and his wife and his 3 sons and their wives and all the animals of 2 that he brought, some of them, there were 7. But all the animals and the people that went into that ark replenished the earth, because Abba Yahweh flooded the earth and drowned everything. They walked on the earth that was not in that ark. Okay, so they basically replenished the earth, and we know that that's true. Okay, so now if he said male and female, and then they replenished the earth, you're basically saying male and male, which would be the opposite, or woman and woman, female and female, which would be the opposite, which would then death. So let's do nature now, because some people will say, well, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in the Bible. Since you think that this lifestyle and those who back this lifestyle, if you think that this right here is not about death, and it can be proven through nature without even using the scripture, that it's a wrong and it's about death. Say, well, we're tired of those who are against homosexuality and LGBTQ, so we're going to start our own nations. And then we're going to have all men in this area nations, and we're going to marry and do whatever we want, and women get their nations, and we're going to have a good time, and we're going to marry all women. In 100 years, and then I'll give it to 110, but probably before that, it will be no one left in those nations. Okay. See, the United States and its allies are basically playing with Abba Yahweh. He's not to be played with. When it comes to his creation, see, he's going to keep his creation alive. And that way of life is the opposite of keeping his creation alive. Because if it spreads and continues, just think, that is death to his creation. When you teaching children at a young age that this is the norm, is what they're doing, like now, 2 men could get married and then they can go and adopt a child. So that child is a baby. It does not know that that's wrong. So they teaching it that it's right. And so that child grows up and repeats this. You'll have a generation that completely can wipe out man and woman. You could actually have generations that live like this until pretty much death is no one left. You could do that. Look at us. Look at the children of Israel. Before we went into captivity in the transatlantic slave trade, we knew who we were. We knew we were the children of Israel. Our ancestors spoke Hebrew, right? And so, look, a lot of us are just waking up and finding out, oh, wow, we're the children of Israel, and we were Hebrew Israelites. Because if we were Hebrew Israelites, what language did we? We spoke Hebrew. But none of us that I know of, and at least the ones that I know, can speak fluent Hebrew. We got wiped out. Same thing with heterosexual partners. If you go with this law and put it in the schools and teach the children while they're young, in a certain amount of years, it'll wipe out the right way of doing things. However, Yahweh, he is going to destroy before he allows that to happen. And that's what's happening. That's one of the main judgments the U.S. is under. So they want to run into these African nations. That's why I say Mother Africa be calling, because if it was prevalent over there, why would the U.S. been doing this for a while? Even when Obama was president, he was over in Africa trying to say this is human rights and this and that. You know, if it was already over there, they wouldn't have to go over there. Now, Kamala Harris is over there doing the same thing. Like I said, so you know, people may think that this does not bring about judgment. Okay, let's say Sodom and Gomorrah. See, because it's really death. Look, nature. Let's go back to nature. Look, okay, the woman's womb brings forth life. Everybody know that. Nobody gets to the earth unless it comes to the womb of a woman. She brings forth life. The womb, the woman's womb. Okay. All right, her canal brings forth life. Right? So now the canal that's used by men with men, bring forth death, right? So the rectum, it brings forth death. Everything that is delivered from the rectum is already dead. See? Nature. I don't even need the scriptures to show you how wrong it is. It's a non-issue. We shouldn't even be addressing it. Some things don't even need to be addressed. It's so wrong. It's like, well, you know, we're not even going to entertain that. It shouldn't even be up before legislation. It should be like, are you kidding me? Goodbye with that. We got other issues. That's a wrong that's off the top. Okay, so let's talk about, so then let's think about it. Uganda is a country that has, one of the countries in Africa that has told its citizens that if you engage in this type of activity, not that you could be put to death. Okay, so you say, wow, that's wrong, right? What's wrong? But let's see what the Bible says about it. Let's see what it says. Leviticus 20 and 13. If a man lies with a male as with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. They should be put to death. That's what it says, right? So that means that's letting us know how Abba Father feels about it. And there's other laws in the scripture that says that one should be put to death for. I'm just showing this one right here. Okay, let's say, so it's saying that it should be put to death. So you know how he feels about it. Because he was saying in Moses' day, hey, look, they need to be put to death. He wanted to stomp it out. He didn't want it spreading. So now, Yeshua, who is the Word, he is the Word. So when you read the laws of Abba Yahweh and everything, it is Yeshua. See, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Yah. He was with Yah in the beginning. Through him all things was made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and in him and in that life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, but the darkness never understood it. It's talking about Yeshua. He's the Word. So he can't go against Yahweh because he is the Word, right? So now, Yeshua, let's go to what he said. Because this thing is saying, oh, put him to death. That's wrong. So let's get what Yeshua said. Let's go to John 8:4-7. The Pharisees and the scribes brought forth a woman caught in adultery. They said the law of Moses commanded to stone her. This is what the Messiah said to them. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. So, and guess what they did? They walked away. They did not cast a stone because they were not without sin, and none of us are. So we can't cast stones, and so we can't catch our neighbor in adultery or something like that and then think we're going to be able to stone them. Or adultery or homosexuality. Can't do it. But hold up now. Hold up. Romans 13:4-7. Remember, this is also Abba Yahweh in his word. Yeshua is the word. I'm going to paraphrase what it says. Abba Yahweh, he puts governments in place, right? Let's wait a minute. Before I even go to Romans 13:4-7, let me go to with Abba Yahweh, Job 12:23. It's Job 12:23. It says, Yah said this. He makes nations, Job says this. He makes nations great and he destroys them, right? Like he made America great. He already knew he was going to destroy him. See, Abba Yahweh has control over everything, the good and the bad. And I'll get back to him making America a great nation. Just because it's a great nation, great in power, but that don't mean it's a great nation that's good. Romans 13:4-7. Let's go through that. Okay, so let's say he made America great. He allowed America to get great and be big. Romans 13:7, with regards to Yeshua saying that he who lives without sin cast the first stone. Well, Romans 13:4-7 goes on to say that Abba Yahweh, remember, he makes nations great, so he allows nations to come up. He says that he puts the government in place. Abba Yah, Romans 13:4-7. He puts the governments in place, right, to do you good. So if you do good, you will have no reason to fear the government. But that government is also put in place to carry out Abba Yah's wrath. So if you don't do good or you do bad, it says that that government does not bear the sword for nothing. See? Because, so when we go back to Yeshua, when he said, he who lives without sin cast the first stone, boom, you say, well, nobody lives without sin. Nobody can put them to death. But then Yeshua, who is the word, coming from Yahweh too in Romans, says that, but the government bears the sword, does not bear the sword in vain. He is an agent of wrath for Abba Yahweh. See, the government could do it. So if the government put a law in place, not individuals that can get out there and stone your neighbor and stone. No, okay, Yeshua took care of that. No. He who lives without sin cast the first stone. Cast the first stone. Abba Yahweh puts government in place. So therefore, to carry out his wrath, the government does not bear the sword in vain. What does a sword do? A sword is to kill, right? So Abba Yahweh will use the government now to do the stoning, if it lines up with his word, right? See, it lines up with his word. It lines up with his word when it says that This lifestyle basically is an abomination. They should be put to death. It lines up with his word. So now, in Yeshua's time, the individuals, you couldn't come up and just stone nobody and, let's get the town together, let's stone them, they did this and did that. No. But, however, because Abba Yahweh Yeshua, his mercy and his grace, he allowed people to turn from their sins, right? Turn from their sins, right? But he then allows a nation. Remember, Job says he makes nations great and he destroys them. Now, if he let a nation come up and then that nation lines up with his word on something, and that government puts a law in place that even could be for the deaf, and it lines up with the word of Abba Yahweh, then he says, Abba Yahweh word says that he is my agent of wrath. If you do good, you don't have to be worried about it. You don't have to be afraid. But if you don't, if you do the opposite, hey, he does not bear the sword in vain. That means that government has the right by Yahweh to carry out death sentence. It says that right there in Romans, New Testament, right? So, the U.S., back to the U.S. The U.S. is basically going down. Again, going down. And all those who are with her are going to go down. Why? Because these laws that they're setting in place are about death, about Abba Yahweh's creation dying off. I wouldn't be sitting here right now if my father was a homosexual and would not touch a woman, but rather be with men. I couldn't be here right now to spread the word of Abba Yahweh and to love up on Yahweh. I couldn't be here today to praise and worship Yahweh on his Shabbat had my father had that mindset. Had my father submitted to a lifestyle like that, it's my children, I got 3 of them, 3 girls, and I got grandchildren. They wouldn't be here through me. They would not have come up out of me, because I wouldn't be here because my father chose to go astray on Abba Yahweh. Think about it. Think about how many generations and generations of people that wouldn't be here if they adopted that lifestyle. So that's Abba Yahweh. He breathes the breath of life into every living vessel. So therefore, all those vessels, he would not been able to breathe his breath of life into. Why? Because his creation decides that they're going to not procreate, but instead do what is an abomination. You got a whole nation, America. I'm just speaking for America right here, right now. I know is it real over there? Israel, they're doing it too. The Western nations are all for this. I'm not saying there's no African nations that are not for this. I'm not saying that. I'm simply saying the majority of this is coming from European nations, and they're pushing it on the African nations. That's why I say Mother Africa be calling. It's time for her children to get up out of here. The disaster is coming with all this lifestyle immorality. It's a lot going on, but this one is bigger than what we think. Look what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. They always try to look over that. Look what happened. Abba Yahweh was not having it. That stuff will kill his creation. If all the animals and everything that has male and female decide to do that, the planet will be wiped out. Even our food will be wiped out. The U.S. is doing everything that defies Abba Yahweh. The U.S. is putting its finger up at Abba Yahweh. Just think about it, the middle finger. Think about it. Think about it. Look, the word says that we are to eat food, whatever that has seed. The U.S. now modifies all the food pretty much. The FDA allows everything. It is corporation, pro-corporation. It is one with all the one percenters, right? The FDA allows them to modify all the foods. Now you can't even get fruits with seed in it. That stuff is bad for you. You need to have seed. Yahweh say you can eat with seed in it. It does everything that's against Yahweh. Seed is life. Seed is life. So you taking life again. You're taking life away again. Okay, look at what they're doing to the farmland and everything. I mean, it's being contaminated with all kinds of oil spills and different things, and oil spills in the water. The U.S. is involved in. Look at okay, so FDA allows all these corporations to manipulate, even take the fish and animals and the fish and modify the fish, and they reproduce and then modify. All that stuff is evil. It's going against Abba Yahweh. And when you eat modified foods like the fish and contaminated things, what does it do? What does it do? It kills Abba Yahweh's people. Okay? So the pharmaceutical companies can get paid by keeping people ill. So we have to, just to try to survive, we'll be taking medications that eventually helps to kill us. It's basically their Band-Aids. Okay, they create the problem, then put a Band-Aid on it, and you have to keep buying Band-Aids and Band-Aids and Band-Aids until eventually you die. This is why America, aka Babylon, and not just saying America is the only one that's a part of the Babylonian system, but we cannot take her off the table. She is Babylonian. Confusion. She's all about confusion. A male can now be a woman a male. Now you got the trans can go into women's sports and win. They can go into women's bathroom. How about this? Now a trans can say he's a woman and they have to put him in a woman prison after he committed a crime. And we know that's to be true because one man, his name is Demetrius, he pulled that off and got into prison and impregnated 2 women. Now, this is the government backing this. This is the government putting this in place. Now, when people do it, okay, they get dealt with individually, right? But we talking about the government. When the government is sick to the point where as though it is confusion to the point where it is causing confusion, then you know it's in trouble. You know it's going to get taken down. You know it's in trouble. So now look at that. The dollar is gone. The dollar is going to waste. Gone. So it's getting judged physically through health. This country is getting judged through natural disasters. It's getting judged through its currency financially, right? It's getting judged by other countries turning its back on them, right? It's being judged all over. Oh, a time is coming for famine and mayhem. It's coming. That's why I say to the children of Israel, don't love this place. Ask Abba Yahweh to make a way for you to go. Okay? So I'm going to stop right there. There's much more I can go on with. I'll be all day. But enjoy your Shabbat. If you see this message on Shabbat, enjoy it. And like I said, Mother Africa be calling. We got to go there. Those of us who see a better life for us, we're always going to depend on Yahweh Yeshua HaMashiach. We're going to depend on Yeshua HaMashiach. So we pray and we listen to the guidance of Abba Yahweh. If Abba Yahweh ain't call you to move, don't move. If he set it in your heart to move, then move. He'll do things at his time. I know some people say, well, I don't have the money, and some people don't have the money. Some people, their conditions, they can't move. But that's, Abba Yahweh can work that out. That will be in the hands of Abba Yahweh. You pray to Abba Yahweh and you obey his commandments. It says the righteous shall live by faith. Just live by faith. Just obey his commandments. You think he can't get you out of here and get you where he wants you? He can surely do it. And he will if it's his will. I do have, it was a 17, it is Acts in the 17th chapter. If you look at the 17th chapter, I forget what verse it is, but anyway, so Acts the 17th chapter, it speaks of how Abba Yahweh, he basically, he gives the exact location where you should live. And it says he did that so people would seek him. So don't think this, like, we're here now in the U.S., and I know I said I was going to shut this down, but we're here down in the U.S. not because of our own choice, because we just knew what we would do when, like before we were born, or our parents. No, it was because Abba Yahweh did it. He basically knows, and he gives exact places where you will be. He gives all your boundaries. He sets your boundaries. Go into, I think it's Acts 17 and look at it. I can't remember which chapter right now, but anyway, yeah. He sets the boundaries for you, where you're going to live. Hallelujah. Praise Abba Yahweh. Shalom.